Welcome to Use Your Words Podcast. This week, we're going to be looking at something that may not be suitable for younger viewers just because of all the anatomical terms that will be used. Anyways, what we're going to be looking at is some research that's showing that we are actually going from this idea that we were told earlier that we're going to be doing a population explosion, we're going to overpopulate the planet, to the fact that humanity may be on the verge of something worse. We may be on the verge of population implosion, and we may be on the verge of going sterile due to various factors in our environment. So let's take a look at that. Here at Use Your Words Podcast, none of us are knowingly foolish. Okay, Troll.
Yeah, we have thousands of years of architecture we can go over.
Would you build your house on rock or sand?
Knowing Brewer, sand because it's cheaper.
Of course, sand.
Oh, I miss that kid.
Oh, the spirit of Brewer lives on in all of us. But anyways, regardless of the fact, welcome to another episode of Use Your Words Podcast. I am Paul, joined once again with Aaron. And in this one, this was an article that I recently read a couple weeks ago, and the premise of it caught my attention. And so I was like, okay, it caught my attention. I want to look into it a little bit more to see what the evidence is actually saying on this. And is that really true, or are they just being a little bit crazy and out there? Because, you know, sometimes doctors will say stuff, A, to promote their book, but B, also to be a little controversial. Because when you're a little controversial, the social media algorithms, yes, exactly, get your attention. But also social media algorithms actually, I guess you could say, reward being controversial. You know, if you're getting a lot of likes and or dislikes, social media goes, oh, this person's getting a lot of interaction, both positive and negative. Hey, maybe you'll be interested into this. Okay, cool. So what I'm talking about here is there was this doctor, Shauna Swan, who has released a book and released some studies, and she is a sexual reproduction endocrinologist. Exactly. So endocrinologist, Aaron, do you know what an endocrinologist is? I know you don't, but I want you to I want you to guess. Pretend we're doing Aaron's Word of the Week. What is an endocrinologist?
N is endro.
ENDR.
Endro.
Oh, it's it's endocrinologist. I'm sorry. It's ENDOCRINOLOGIST. I was like,
endocrinologist. Jeez.
Okay. What is an endocrinologist studies the endocrine system. You probably have no idea what that is either, huh?
No.
Okay. That is hormones, your hormone system. In this case, in males, the hormone system would be your testes, it'd be your pituitary gland, you know, a bunch of our glands, but primarily it's your sex organs, and that is related to that sort of stuff, various glands and that. There's other things in it, like obviously, like I said, the pituitary gland, both male and female have that, you know, your adrenal gland, your thyroid gland, your parathyroid gland, your pituitary, your pineal gland. But then, you know, in males, testes, and females, ovaries, your pancreas, you know, that. So all those things, that's your endocrine system. Okay. This person, they study specifically the parts of, you know, they study the system that is specifically directed towards sexual reproduction. In other words, they're studying, you know, the testes, they're studying the ovaries, and then they're studying the hormones and everything related to that. And
what a job.
Well, you know, think about it this way. You know, Aaron, you get married one day, right? Okay. You get married, and you and your wife are trying to have your 10th child, and she's not getting pregnant. You go to
Thank you.
you go to a specialist, and they're like, "Well, okay, I'm going to send you over to her." They'd send you over to Shauna Swan, and they'd say, "Hey, okay, let's run some tests. See, make sure your hormones are working right. Make sure that you're producing semen. Make sure you're producing sperm that are valid and fertile, and are mobile, that can go out and fertilize the egg." Okay, so that's why it is important. And so she has been doing this study, and her conclusion is that we are on the verge of going to a population implosion. So do you know what an implosion is?
Not good.
Okay. Do you know
it's the opposite of
explosion. So what's an explosion? Things are going out, expanding, right?
Yeah.
So implosion, it's contracting inward.
Yep.
Type deal. It's still considered a bad thing.
Yeah. No, in this
well, in all regards, it's you don't want your ship to implode if you're out in space or anything. You don't want your ship to go crumple up into a space ball, because you're in the middle, and guess what? All of a sudden you just got cut into 5,000 different pieces.
That's not a comfortable thing.
So,
but if it's your enemy, it's okay.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. So let me ask this before we get into this. Have you ever seen the movie Children of Men?
No, I know you've talked about that, but I've still never seen it.
So Children of Men, for those of you who haven't watched it, and I recommend watching it. I enjoyed it when I've seen it a couple times. Essentially, it was supposed to be like an apocalyptic movie about the future, which actually, when it was created like in the early 2000s, it was supposed to be like the late 20s, 2020s, which is not that far off, right?
Right.
And it's supposed to be a world where none of the women are able to get pregnant anymore. And the youngest person in the world at age 18 had just died. Think about that. That's the youngest person in the world, age 18.
Oh my gosh.
And no one's able to get pregnant. And then all of a sudden, this woman arrives, and she's pregnant. And people are essentially fighting, killing each other to control her destiny, because some people want to kind of like study her and dissect her. Like, how was she able to get pregnant? And other people are wanting to like, protect her so she can give birth. And then, hopefully her child can have children and, sort of stuff like that. And then they can hopefully start rebuilding the population, people who are fertile again. And I remember watching that, and I was like, wow, that's weird. It's like, I can't imagine that ever happening. And then I read these studies, and I'm like, oh boy, we're on the verge of this.
Is this happening?
Yeah. We're on the verge. We're on the verge of this. We're on the verge of this. So
except it's just men not being able to reproduce.
Well, there's other things going on here. So let's talk about some of this here. Let's talk about the men's side of things first. This is the weird part. Okay. So, and actually, I say let's talk about the men's side of this. For the most part, most of our studies do reside on the men's side. But let's be honest. If the men are infertile, or if the men are sterile, guess what? You're not having a kid.
No, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
At least without like some manipulation, because they have been able to like manipulate skin cells into spermatozoa to be able to fertilize an egg. They've been able to do that. And they're trying to make it more efficient and all that. But yeah. I love the expression on your face right now. But that still takes a lot of manipulation, right?
Okay.
So there's hope in that regard that, things could happen, but then, all of a sudden just get killed or something like that. We can't have natural birth. Anyways, so what Shauna did is she went back and she went through a bunch of studies that have gone on over the years. And she started in studies that started back in 1973 through 2011. So the first thing she looked at was a sperm count of a man, like how much sperm he produces.
Yeah.
From 1973 to 2011, the average male sperm count decreased 59%.
Wow.
Okay.
That's a lot.
If the trend continues at the current rate, the average male will be sterile and produce no sperm by the year 2045, according to her research. That's if trend continues, nothing changes, blah, 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 blah. And you're like, whoa, woo.
That would be within my lifetime, hopefully, if I live that long.
Yeah. So she's saying the average male could potentially be producing 0 sperm by 2045.
Wow.
Okay. Now, that, has been decreasing over time. The other things that have been decreasing over time, this sounds weird, okay? But what makes a guy, hormone-wise? Testosterone, right?
Testosterone.
All right. Testosterone has also been decreasing year over year as well. What they're finding now is that some people age 35, a little bit younger than me, because I'm 37 right now. I'll be 38 this year.
Woo!
But what they're finding is there's a lot of people that are 35 now that have the same amount of testosterone in their blood at 35 as a 70-year-old, 80-year-old did 30 years ago. So what a 30-year-old, an 80-year-old's testosterone level was when they were that old 30 years ago is what a 35-year-old has now. In fact, I don't know if you remember, have you ever seen on YouTube? You might have. There's a group called the Try Guys.
I think the first video I really ever saw by them was they either did like it was like a pregnancy a birth simulator kind of thing, and they also, I thought there was one where they wore this like a vest type thing that would add the weight of like carrying a kid around and stuff like that. And
okay,
I think those were 2 videos I had seen by them, and they're entertaining dudes.
Okay, yeah. So there's four guys in there. And what they did was they essentially, when they got their testosterone tested, their levels in their blood, right? So let me ask you this: what is the normal range for men to have of testosterone in their blood? Ages 25 to 34, let's say.
Normal
range.
How would that be?
So the average range for men is 270 to 1070 nanograms per deciliter in their blood. It's NG over DL. It's just how they measure. Okay. All right. With men aged from 25 to 34 averaging 617. Okay. Not one of the Try Guys got close to 617.
Ooh.
In fact, all 4 tested below the level of a typical 85-year-old.
That's what?
The typical 85-year-old is 376.
Oh my. And they were less than that.
Yeah.
They were less than.
The person with the highest testosterone level in their blood had 363. 3 of the 4 tested below 270.
Oh my gosh. I don't want to get mine. I don't want to know what mine's at now. I don't want to know.
In testosterone, they go, that's what makes a man, or whatever. That does everything from your muscle mass to your frame to your sex drive, your aggression, amount of hair on your chest, and all that sort of stuff.
Pretty pathetic.
That's what they say makes a man a man. It's like, but in reality, it is that sex hormone that it defines, especially when you're going through puberty, how your body grows and develops and all that.
Right.
And what they're finding is that there's less and less testosterone as we're going up. And there's other things going as well. We're also seeing increases in chemicals from plastics, which are being increased into the bodies. And they're doing this through microplastics. So microplastics are these really tiny pieces of plastic. And they get into your system. And once they get into your system, your body doesn't know what to do with them. And they just kind of break them down, and they can't break them down.
They hang out.
And they hang out kind of forever type of deal. Now, here's the bad part. Most of these microplastics also mess with your body's chemistry, mess with your body's hormones. They release estrogen-like chemical into your system, which obviously messes with how you you grow and develop, especially as a teenager or a young kid, right? Now, because of this increase of plastics and this increase of this estrogen-like hormone in the body because of these plastics, they have found through the studies that this has caused a reduction in seminal fluid. So it's not the amount of sperm you produce, just the amount of seminal fluid you produce when you release.
Yeah.
It has resulted in lower birth rates.
Makes sense.
It has resulted in smaller penises.
Also makes sense. I guess.
It's also, yeah. So, what?
Sorry, ladies. Not much more fun for you anymore.
No comment. So, but anyways, so all these things are going on, and they're like, okay, let's see if we can find, some commonalities, some stuff. So,
yeah.
So what they found, and this took me a little while to figure out figure out here. So what they say is, when a baby is born, what they have found in the studies, from all this buildup of these hormones and these plastics, because even these plastics and hormones, even though they're not in the baby necessarily at first, because they're sharing, their mother's body, essentially, some of those hormones are kind of affecting how the baby develops in the womb. What they find is baby males born have a shorter AGD. That's the that's the more, I guess you could say, scientific, friendly, family friendly term for a word I'm going to ask if you know what it means.
Nope.
Do you know what the word? And again, this is primarily they're finding this is impacting men. It does affect females as well. But taint. Do you know what that means? TAINT.
Wait, it what them?
What is that?
Wait, as in they're tainted? What?
Nope, their taint is shorter.
Their taint is
TAINT.
Their taint is shorter.
Do you know what that is?
Why? I've only heard that word being used as like you tainted something.
Okay. So that is the distance between your anus and the start of your genitals.
That's called the taint?
Yep.
Is that little that's become shorter?
So yeah, so what they found is that there's a direct correlation that the shorter that is in males specifically, the smaller the testes, smaller the penis, and less sperm they produce. So what they found is that over the years that has actually shrunk by like a couple inches.
What the heck?
Yep.
How do they figure this stuff out?
Well, what they've done is they've taken studies and they've studied people over the years.
Yeah.
And then they cross-reference it to increases in certain chemicals and hormones through them over time.
That's bizarre.
Yeah. So as a result of that, you have all these estrogen mimicking chemicals getting in the body. So it's causing these physical changes in men as they're growing older. It's causing reproductive health issues. But what they're also seeing is that, with all these estrogen mimicking hormones and lower T and all that, they're seeing an increase in testicular cancer year over year. They're also seeing an increased rate of erectile dysfunction year over year. In fact, they're saying that there is a plus 1% per year adverse reproductive change for men due to these chemicals in the environment. Now, when I say due to these chemicals in the environment, there's other factors as well where we're not helping ourselves with this.
Right.
We could have, I don't know, if we're overweight, that contributes to that. If we're smoking, that contributes to that.
Dang it.
Yeah, I know. Right?
Drinking too.
Well, excessive marijuana usage contributes to that as well.
Dang it.
So all these people are like, oh, marijuana is so fine. Yeah. No, it's actually contributing for you to be producing less sperm and to be less fertile.
I should have never gotten into that.
You haven't been into it, so that's okay.
Well, not that you know.
Then we'll talk later.
Shoot. You said drinking is
like excessive
drinking. What's excessive drinking?
Like, they don't define excessive drinking, but just like they just list marijuana, they just list smoking. They just list that. They don't list, all the things.
Now, and as far as smoking goes,
mm-hmm.
I guess I wonder, because granted, okay, yes, generally, because I'm a cigar smoker, and pipe, starting to get into pipe, as you, yeah.
Yeah.
For cigar, you're not supposed to inhale. So
They didn't delineate between, so I can't answer if
that's where I'm wondering how much does that have to do with it? Because generally, people that are smoking cigarettes are inhaling.
yeah, but you're probably getting some of the chemicals still.
I say yes. Even with cigars, like to some point, you're still getting a little bit, but
You'll have to go to find this Shauna Swan and ask her.
Okay.
She'll have to do some measurements on you first, and then you can find out.
Gosh, I don't want to find out.
Anyways, so that's on the men's side of things, right?
Yeah.
On the women's side of things, oh man, it's almost just as bad actually. So,
really?
it's not so much as money physically altering things as it is on men. The taint thing is still a thing that happens there.
Okay.
But what they also have found is that fertility has gone down specifically. Now, some of this could be contributed to some other factors, and we'll get that into a second here with that. But they've also found increased miscarriage rates. They've found increased genital abnormalities among the children. And then that might lead to potentially like, if it's an ultrasound ahead of time, like, I might abort. Now, these abnormalities are typically among boys, but, obviously the mother's carrying their kids still.
Right.
These chemicals have also led to earlier puberty for females. And we've heard about that for a while now. They're like, man, it seems like children are entering puberty earlier and earlier.
Uh-huh.
Well, guess what? The science says, yes, that is happening.
Huh.
There's a quote in the articles that says, in some parts of the world, the average 20-something woman today is less fertile than her grandma at 35. So you know how we were saying how men had lower testosterone? In this case, that's also happening to the females.
Ooh. So, well, I guess a good thing we have Josh and Amy to be our test guinea pig things.
They are not our test guinea pigs.
Well, yeah, okay. They'll, whenever they get to their time to have kids, we'll get to monitor that and see how they do.
So like I said, Gosh, it is impacting both female and males. Okay?
Yeah.
And it's causing, so between this increase in genital deformities, this increase in miscarriages, this decrease in fertility, this decrease in sperm being produced. Some of it they've been able to attribute to like BPA plastics, because you now know, if you buy like a piece, like a plastic bottle or whatever at the store,
Right.
not like a soda, but like a reusable plastic container, it'll say BPA free, right? That's because BPA time and release those estrogen like hormones through your system.
Now,
That's why a lot of countries have actually made it illegal to sell anything with BPA in it because of this change that it has in hormones.
Wow.
And I need to be fair. There are other things that have contributed to this, besides BPA, like just an environment factor, smoking, drinking, all that.
Mm-hmm.
But this has had all these things have had a couple of important factors right now. Okay. So from 1964 to 2018, which is pretty recent here. Okay. The global fertility rate, and when I say the fertility rate, what they mean is the amount of children each woman has in their lifetime. Okay. The global fertility rate fell from 5.06 children, births per woman, to 2.4 births per woman.
Wow.
Okay. Now, why is that important? The reason that's important is that in order to maintain the current population that we are at, each woman needs to give birth to 2.1 children. That is the population replacement level. We're down to 2.4. 2.1 is the minimum to keep the population at current levels. So we're really slowly building it, right?
Yeah.
Now, that being said, I'm not going to ask for a number. I want you to give me a percentage of all the countries in the world that have a fertility rate. Again, how many births per woman have a fertility rate of less than 2.1? How many countries? Percentage.
Go with 63.
Right now, today, 50% of the countries have a fertility rate of less than 2.1. 50% of the countries are on a declining population path.
Wow.
By 2050, they estimate that 2/3 of all countries will be in this route. So that'll be 66% by 2050 is what they estimate.
So that's wow. It's a long time. But
It
still.
seems a long time, but it's not that long of a time if you really think about it.
If you think about
because if you look at the global population trends, you will see it just spike up high percentage wise for many, many years. And recently it's only gone up just a little. And we're on that verge of where, hey,
decline.
we might be on the decline really soon here.
Then at some point we're gonna have boomers again, and then just have a point when everybody's having babies left and right.
Maybe.
Which I remember when this whole COVID thing hit, that was one prediction of everyone was just all the ladies were gonna get pregnant because there's nothing else to do during this time.
Well, and even with the lockdown, guess what? The population increase of the world barely went above 1%.
Wait, what?
Even with the lockdown, even with COVID,
Yeah,
the population increase year over year. Last year, barely went over 1%.
That's nuts. You figured everybody would be
that's what you would figure. You figured there'd be maybe more births.
It didn't,
but it didn't happen.
Would they be able to know how many pregnancies there are?
No, they track births.
Yeah. So
so maybe this year we'll see a little bump, but we don't know yet.
Yeah, we don't know yet until it happens.
Okay. So we talked about BPAs as being one of the culprits of all this, right? BPA it's called an everywhere chemical. Do you know where you can find BPAs besides plastic bottles and like plastics in general?
Fast food?
No,
okay.
But maybe in the receipt.
See, how would that get to you though?
So it
just by touching it?
Yeah.
And it just gets in your body?
These BPAs, they're found in pesticides. They're found in ATM receipts. They're found in cosmetics. They're found in plastics of all sorts.
Yeah.
They're just everywhere. In fact, these microplastics are probably in some of the foods we eat as well, since they can't be broken down and digested. They are everywhere in the environment, just everywhere.
The heck?
So, we have these things coming in from all over. We have these decreased birth rates. But here's the kicker. Okay. And Shauna Swan writes about this in her book, but she is very, let me put this, so she's very on the fence about this part. Okay. She says that these increases in these hormones and these BPAs and all this other stuff may actually be gender bending chemicals.
I was to say, I did hear there was a thing where was it like fish and what river is that? Along Wisconsin, Mississippi River.
Okay.
But I thought it was in the Mississippi, but like there was fish that were, I guess, male, but they had changed over, or their sex changed because of higher amounts of estrogen and stuff like that. Oh, it's very bizarre.
Yeah, so looking at that, I'd have to look up at the news on that. But that was one of the things that they referenced, that is something that is happening due to and they said these estrogen chemicals could be also coming from some of these microplastics as well. Just like in humans, where it's giving us more estrogen in our system, it's also doing it the same thing to the fish.
Can you take why would you take estrogen boosters, Aaron, if you already got an estrogen more in your body than normal? Testosterone boosters, though.
That is a danger. Okay. And here's why. And I've looked into this a little bit. And I say this as someone whose doctor says I have low T. Okay.
Okay.
You can do a couple things. You can take some herbs and that to kind of try to naturally boost it.
Right.
That works to a sense. Or you could get a testosterone gel But then you have to be careful because like the gel, you put it like on your skin, but if that skin like touches your dog or something like that, you can transfer some of that into your dog.
Yeah.
And
Good
like,
thing I don't have a dog.
yeah, I know. But like, let's say you had a girlfriend or a wife or whatever, right? And you accidentally touch your wife with that. All of a sudden,
growing a beard.
she's going to be growing a beard. That is a side effect.
Yeah.
But it could lead to like aggression in dogs and that. Okay.
Mm.
You could also take a shot like every day of testosterone, prescription, all that. But here's the problem with that.
What's the problem with that one?
That's called testosterone, the gel in the shot. That's called testosterone replacement therapy.
Okay.
Once you start testosterone replacement therapy, your body stops producing testosterone.
See, that's what I find crazy about the body is how once you start adding stuff to it, it stops doing stuff on its own.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm imagining that's in a way to keep balance to whatever it feels like it needs.
Yes, it does. And here's the other side effect of this, this wonderfulness of testosterone replacement therapy.
Yeah.
If you're not careful,
yeah,
it can lead to excess estrogen being produced in your body. That's why you see those bodybuilders who are injecting themselves with anabolic steroids. Sometimes they develop breasts because their body's producing too much estrogen and their body develops breasts because of that.
Huh.
Testosterone and estrogen are closely linked together.
Right.
In your body, if it has an excess of one,
it's going to make more of the other.
It'll make more of the estrogen specifically. So that's why you have to be careful with that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So that's why I said there's herbs in that can help potentially, maybe, don't know, but it's not going to replace it. But if you go on a replacement program, you're on it.
Yeah.
And what's dangerous and scary is you will, because I was researching all this stuff, right? And so then Facebook goes, "Oh, you must have low T. I start seeing all these testosterone replacement therapy program ads on Facebook. I'm like, are you serious? I got to get all this crap out of my Facebook feed.
Right. Oh my gosh.
But
that's so wild.
Yeah.
See, now because when you talk about I already forgot their name.
The Try Guys?
Try Guys, yeah.
Yeah.
So they're in their 30s now.
Yeah.
So if I went to go get tested with they got tested in 10 years, I wonder how much lower I will be compared to them.
Don't know.
Oh, I don't like that.
So you have all these plastics, you have all these things that are changing, you have all these physical changes happening, right? And then, like I said, they call the BPAs like these gender bender plastics. So they're also seeing some psychological changes happening in children now. So, and people are going to go, "Oh, you're being binary gendered."
Well, I mean,
okay.
What else is there?
I'm just going off what the science here says. So let's take a look at what the science says.
Listen to the science. That's what we've been told all year.
It says, and I'm quoting here, typically females know more words than their male counterparts at the same age. When we're talking like a couple years old, when kids are just learning to speak, right?
Women are smart.
But they say, but boys exposed to BPAs in the womb, for those boys who are exposed to BPA in the womb while they're still developing, the differences between boys and girls, language-wise, number of words known, decreases rapidly.
Huh.
So psychologically, how we learn, how our brain works, it's changing it. These BPAs, these plastics, it's decreasing our fertility. It's changing how our brain works. And she puts in there cautiously, she says cautiously, she said more research is needed. And, obviously this hopefully means more research will be done. She says this may be contributing in part to people picking genders, which is opposite of their sex, because of these increase in hormone chemicals that are messing with the brains, messing with the hormone balance in the body, messing with the physical changes going on. And again, we can't get away from these BPAs. Again, some European countries in that have outlawed BPAs completely. We haven't in the US. We like to say, that's why you see everything like BPA free. Yay. But it's in cosmetics, pesticides, ATM receipts. It's probably in some of those toys behind you.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking that. I'm thinking, what, this? I think that's just a hard plastic.
Yeah.
But I mean, gosh, What? I mean, computers, all those parts and stuff like that, bags.
Plastic is everywhere. It's permeated
Say
our
for, like,
entire lives.
Yeah, just like a sandwich bag or whatever. If you
Yeah.
put your bag in a little plastic, I mean, if you put your sandwich in a little plastic baggie, gosh,
Yeah,
it's literally everywhere.
it is. Now, not all of it is BPA, obviously,
Right.
You know, but you know, like if you get a water bottle, BPA potential, unless it's made BPA free. Oh, you look like you just had an idea.
Work.
Yeah, what about work? Oh, working with speed wrap in that?
Yeah.
Maybe?
Oh no. Put my 2 weeks in.
and this isn't to make you all like, oh, I gotta be scared of everything.
I need to leave. Sorry, I can't work here anymore.
So
my testosterone.
so we talked about, you know, how they're right now 50% of the countries have below the fertility rate of below 2.1.
Yeah.
Now I do want to make this I do want to make this clear. There's other things contributing to that lower fertility rate as well. That's made it drop from 5.06 to 2.4 right now.
Yeah.
Contraception is everywhere now. Okay. So, you know, obviously contraception means less unplanned, unwanted pregnancies sort of deal. There's cultural shifts towards smaller families, having children later in life. You know, instead of having children starting like at 18, maybe families don't start till like the 30s, or don't even get married till the 30s and start having children in the 30s. Obviously, they can't be. This sounds weird. They can't be pumping out kids, you know, as long as an 18-year-old.
Right.
Cost of raising children, especially if both parents are out working. You know, daycare is expensive.
Yeah.
Well, and then also like all the
illness. What about any of that?
They didn't put that in as part of the thing.
Okay.
But, you know, obviously that might play part of it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, cost of having children, you know, between healthcare and childcare, and, you know, little Timmy has to go to the school trip, and that's going to cost, you know, however much. And little Timmy has to have this set of equipment to go to school, sort of stuff. Right?
That's where I start kissing my stuff goodbye.
You know, the increased miscarriage rates also contributes to that. The increased genital abnormalities among boys, we talked about that. Early puberty, and for females, they listed as one of the reasons for a decrease in the fertility. They also talked about, again, the tobacco smoking, obesity, and marijuana. Like I said, the smaller families going into that. So that is all just like,
there's a ton of different factors that can go into.
But one of the biggest things I see is that plastic that's doing that hormone mimicking, which is then, and to be honest, when I first heard about people going, oh, we don't want anything with BPA, I was like, what's the big deal about it? And then I started doing this research, and I was like,
this could have some effect on things.
This has an effect on a lot of things, and that we don't even think about that.
Right. That's scary. Well, I guess it's not scary, but that's.
No, I think it can be on the lines of scary, because we're talking about potentially, you know, obviously take everything with a grain of salt until it has been like proven multiple times over, but she has been interviewed multiple times, multiple things. Like I was pulling some resources from Axios, I was pulling some other things, and that she's like, yeah, I'm trying to sound the alarm that we're on the verge.
People start getting busy
of a population collapse. And what's funny is I was talking with our pastor's wife recently, and like we were just talking, and I was like, yeah, I was reading this interesting article, and she didn't read necessarily the same article, but she's like, yeah, no, I've been reading about this stuff as well. It's interesting. I was like, it's kind of scary too, to think that this big of a physical change is happening. And I haven't heard a peep about it in anywhere news-wise.
Well, I don't know how many people actually know about this.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. Like,
yeah,
she wrote a book, she released papers, all this about, hey, we have a potential decline in human population coming up, and nothing. And I think the reason is a lot of people, okay, you know, and I'm going to say this, and people are going, that's a conspiratorial. You know, like Bill Gates and that has said we need to decrease the human population in the world. You know, there are a lot of people who are like, we need to decrease population. And I think because that is kind of this big narrative that it's not, this sort of stuff isn't catching attention. There's a difference between intentionally decreasing population by saying, hey, we're going to have less births, so they're not burning the planet as much, versus, hey, guess what? Men, you're all sterile.
That's a lot bigger of a statement.
It is. So, I mean, we got some interesting things out there. So if you want to read more on this, look up Ashana Swan.
Yeah.
She has done interviews on with Axios and a bunch of other newspapers. And she has definitely, you know, been out there, kind of just been like, hey, we got some things going on.
No, I've never been to a sperm donor.
Sperm bank?
Or, yeah. Because I would be the donor.
Yeah.
Giving to a bank. But, like, how long can that last?
Frozen for a long time.
It's interesting. Because I wonder if they'll have to... Because now if men go sterile, they'd have to just rely on sperm banks to be able to use for impregnation stuff.
Yeah. And that's only going to go for so long.
Until you run out of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Man. Well, I'm hoping I'm not around long enough to really see the effects of that. I hope.
You never know.
I don't.
Yeah. And
I don't know.
we got things just going on that could be, they've been kind of boiling under the surface with this modern life of ours.
Mm-hmm.
And all the times that things come up at the last minute and be like, and we're done. and I'll say this, what they pointed out in this article here is that they say just as CO2 accumulates in the environment over decades, adds momentum to climate change. That I'm quoting them exactly here.
Mm-hmm.
The damage done to human reproduction may be accumulating with each new generation starting life with increasingly degraded fertility. She actually argues, and again, I'm quoting here, Swan argues that human beings, despite our numbers, arguably fit already in 3 of the 5 criteria for an endangered species. Destruction of our environment, so she's talking about global warming and all that, right? Inadequate regulatory mechanisms, aka our fertility rate sinking down towards that 2.1 level and below. And man-made factors that affect our continued existence, aka BPAs and obesity and smoking marijuana and smoking in general and all that other stuff. And so her argument is that we already fit 3 of those 5, and humanity should be labeled an endangered species.
Oh my! But there's so many of us at the moment.
Yeah, at the moment. But how many of us are going to die out soon?
Right. Yeah, I wonder, like, if you were to take just like a list of all the people in the world, how many people, like, I mean, how many people are like up in their old age and ready to pass away kind of thing, and then how many are going to be left?
Yep. So this has led to a new phrase, especially with these doctors who study, hormones for reproduction. They have a level on which BPA is considered reprotoxic. In other words, reproductively toxic to a human. Yeah. And the European Union has restricted BPAs completely from toys. And they have also set limits on BPAs in food production, which means it's somewhere in our food chains at some points as well.
Well, that's why I wonder, I mean, gosh, I wonder for like farmers and stuff like that. Like if you just got food from, if you got your
it's still
local farmers,
it's still everywhere. They said they predict that there are probably no animals left that don't have some of these microplastics in them. And because it's once it gets in the ground and all that, it's just in the food system. You kind of have to start over.
Who invented this stuff?
We probably invented it to make life simpler because it made plastics maybe easier or more flexible or stuff like that. And then all of a sudden, oh, look, it causes issues.
Oh, it's killing us.
Yep.
It's bringing an end to our species.
Yeah.
And you know what? This makes me wonder, depending on how far out, unless, I mean, we somehow take some corrective action and start growing in number again, would we ever really get to the point where humanity is extinct, or is Christ gonna, well, how much sooner would Christ come back before that?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I don't know.
Same.
And hey, maybe I need to go over Revelation again. Maybe this is one of the end time prophecies.
Right.
It's a
That's
plague of
freaky.
it's a plague of pestilence which decreases human population. Hey, it's being done through reproductive issues. I don't know, because you continue, like I said, you continue reading on this over and over again, and it just makes me hurl a little bit.
Yeah.
The fact that it's affecting men specifically so much physically.
Yeah.
And people are going, "Oh my goodness, you're just worried about the men. You're just worried about your penis slide."
Well,
I don't care
without
about
that, you ain't having kids.
Well, no, I was getting more along the lines that you're just being vain because you're a little bit smaller than normal or whatever.
That really hurts on a man's pride, okay?
But all these changes are indicative of hormonal changes in men as they grow up because of the environment, because of these things all around us. And if we're already down 59% in our sperm count between 73 and 2011, I want to see what that range has increased to since 2011, because we have about 9.5 years since that study was last done. So between 2011 and 2020, I would like to see what that value has decreased. How much closer are we to that 2045 deadline?
I don't want to know.
Or is that 2045 deadline being moved up to 2030?
2030, right. But it's only 9 years away.
Yeah, I know. Think about
Spooky.
it, Aaron. That could be real scary.
Could be very interesting. Hey, it's fine. I don't want kids, so it's whatever.
Well,
seeing I'm part of the problem with the world now because I don't want kids.
You're part of that cultural shift as well. So that's why the birth rate is also decreasing from that the 5.06 to the 2.4.
Right.
It's that part you can explain away, and that's fine. It's the part that you can't explain because of the change to our reproductive health due to these other things in the environment going on.
Yeah.
Which for a lot of stuff now I say now, we don't have control over anymore because it's already been
it's too far gone.
Yeah, it's already been introduced into the system. It's already been introduced all over.
There's no getting away.
So
there's no escape.
Think about that and make that haunt your dreams coming up. That hey, we're on the verge of potentially having some interesting times ahead. We're on the verge of having the times where people are like, hey, why are there no more children being born anymore?
We can't. It's all over now.
Hey, you never know.
Enjoy the people while you can. Ugh.
What?
So part of this might almost be convincing to have kids, but I still don't think I want any. I don't think I can do it.
Yeah. So
sorry, world.
So I just pulled up some countries, right?
Yeah.
So like Japan, they have a negative growth.
What about the U.S.? Because the U.S. is like the most obese.
U.S. growth, 2010 to 2018. They do it kind of in ranges in this one. Did go up 6%, right?
Yeah.
But Russia went down. Japan went down. Hungary went down. There's a couple other ones here where they show a negative growth increase. So you have that, and it's just like, oh boy. New Zealand down. And a few others. It's like, that's not good.
Yeah, no.
And that's, again, population over like 8 years. I wasn't able to get like the by year one necessarily.
Okay.
Oh, actually, no, mine. Here it is. Oh. Yearly change. We only went up 1.05% last year. When I say we barely made over that 1% mark.
Yeah, we literally barely made it.
Yeah. And if you look at this chart, okay, starting back in 1965, it was 2%. Okay. And then slowly over the years, like every year it goes, for the most part, there are a couple of years where it spikes up again, but for the most part, it goes down every year. And you're like, wait a minute, we have so much population. How is it only going up this much?
Slightly.
Again, some of these things, we talked about, smaller families, social changes and that, but you see this trend is we're just slowly going down, slowly
but surely.
So we have this going on. It's like, the data is right there in front of us. That's not good.
Right. I mean, again, there's not much we can do really about it.
Yeah.
Unless you just want to, I don't know, have another generation of boomers. But even then, they'll only be able to do so much.
Yeah. So, what we got.
We're just going to have to start enhancing our children. It's going to be a bunch of guinea pigs.
I don't know how we're going to enhance them, but okay.
I don't know.
I was like, I don't know. So, here, maybe this graph will help you to understand this. And I'll see if I can get a copy of this on the notes. But here's the growth rate by year. And you just see it as it spikes up after they start taking it, and then just down. That is on worldometers.info/world-population.
It's pretty steady downward.
Yeah, it is a pretty steady downward trend. They are predicting by 2050, this site here, independent of the data that the Shauna Swan did.
Yeah,
they're predicting by the year 2025 will be under 1% growth. Okay. And by the year 2050, they're predicting only a 0.53% growth. And notice it continues that negative trend year over year.
Wow.
So,
goodbye.
Plastics in the world killing us slowly. Hormones changing us.
We're just really hormonal people.